We'll start with the opening prayers. भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो न प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। I'm Shri Sairam. Welcome to day 3 of our Sai Satcharita Reading. Brother Girish, I will have you take over from chapter 7, Unit Behavior of Sai Baba.
Yes, I don't. Behavior of Sai Baba. Fool that I am, I cannot describe Baba's miracles. He got almost all the temples in Shirdi repaired through Tatya Patil, the temples of Shani, Ganapati, Shankar Parvati, village deity, and Maruti were all put in order. His charity was also remarkable. The money he used to collect as dakshina was freely distributed. 20 rupees to some, 15 rupees, or 50 to others every day. The recipients thought that this was pure charity money, and Baba wished that it should be usefully employed. People were immensely benefited by having a darshan of Baba. Some became hale and hearty. Wicked people were turned into good ones. Kushta, leprosy, was cured in some cases. Many got their desires fulfilled without any drops or medicine being put in the eyes. Some blind men got back their sight, and some lame ones got their legs. Nobody could see the end of his extraordinary greatness. His fame spread far and wide, and pilgrims from all sides flocked to Shirdi. Baba sat always near the Duni and eased himself there, and always sat in meditation, sometimes with and on other times without a bath. He used to tie a white turban on his head and wear a green dhotar around his waist and a shirt on his body. This was his dress in the beginning. He started practicing medicine in the village, examined patients, and gave medicines. He was always successful, and he became famous as a Hakim doctor. A curious case may be narrated here. One devotee got his eyeballs quite red and swollen. No doctor was available in Shirdi. The other devotee took him to Baba. Other doctors would use ointments, anjans, cow's milk, and camphorated drugs, etc. in such cases. Baba's remedy was quite unique. He pounded some biba, some carpus, anacardium, marking nuts. He pounded some biba, marking nuts, and made 2 balls of them. Thrust them on each eye of the patient and wrapped a cloth bandage around the eyes. Next day, the bandage was removed and water was poured over them in a stream. The inflammation subsided and the pupils became white and clear. Although the eyes were very delicate, the biba caused no smarting, but removed the disease of the eyes. Many such cases were cured, and this is only an instance in point Baba's yoga practices. Baba knew all the processes and practices of yoga. 2 of them will be described here. Dhoti, or cleansing process. Baba went to the well near banyan tree at a considerable distance from the masjid every 3rd day and washed his mouth and had a bath. On one occasion, he was seen to vomit out his intestines, clean them inside and outside, and place them on a jam tree for drying. There are persons in Shirdi who have actually seen this and who have testified to this fact. Ordinary dhoti is done by a moistened piece of linen, 3 inches broad, 22.5 feet long. This piece is gulped down the throat and allowed to remain in the stomach for about half an hour for being reacted there and then taken out. But Baba's dhoti was quite unique and extraordinary. Khanda Yoga. In this practice, Baba extracted the various limbs from his body and left them separately at different places in the masjid. Once a gentleman went to the masjid and saw the limbs of Baba lying separately. lying separately at separate places. He was much terrified, and he first thought of running to the village officers and informing them of Baba being hacked to pieces and murdered. He thought that he would be held responsible, and he was the first informant and knew something of the affair, so he kept silent. But next day he went to the masjid. He was very much surprised to see Baba hale and hearty and sound as before. He thought that what he had seen the previous day was only a dream. Baba practiced yoga since his infancy, and nobody knew or guessed the proficiency he attained. He charged no fees for his cures, became renowned and famous by virtue of his merits, gave health to many a poor and suffering person. This famous doctor of doctors cared not for his interests, but always worked for the good and welfare of others, himself suffering unbearable and terrible pain many a time in the process. One such instance I give below, which will show the all-pervasive and most merciful character of Sai Baba. Baba's all-pervasiveness and mercy. In the year 1910 AD, Baba was sitting near the Duni on Diwali holiday and warming himself. He was pushing firewood into the Duni, which was brightly burning. A little later, instead of pushing logs of wood, Baba pushed his arm into the Duni. The arm was scorched and burnt immediately. This was noticed by the servant Madhava and also by Madhvarao Deshpande Shama. They at once ran to Baba, and Madhvarao clasped Baba by his waist from behind and dragged him forcefully backward and asked, "Deva, for what have you done this?" Then Baba came to his senses and replied, "The wife of a blacksmith at some distant place was working the bellows on a furnace. Her husband called her. Forgetting that her child was on her way, she ran hastily, and the child slipped into the furnace. I immediately thrust my hand into the furnace and saved the child. I do not mind my arm being burnt, but I am glad that the life of the child is saved." Leper's devotee service. On hearing the news of Baba, hand being burnt from Shama, Madhvarao Deshpande, Mr. Nana Sahab Chandorkar, accompanied by the famous doctor Paramanand of Bombay, with his medical outfit consisting of ointments, lint and bandage, etc., rushed to Shirdi and requested Baba to allow Dr. Paramanand to examine the arm and dress the wound caused by the burn. This was refused. Ever since the burn, the arm was dressed by the leper devotee, Bagaji Shinde. His treatment consisted in massaging the burnt part with ghee and then placing a leaf over it and bandaging it tightly with paddy's bandages. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar solicited Baba many a time to unfasten the paddies and get the wound examined and dressed and treated by Dr. Paramanand, with the object that it may be speedily healed. Dr. Paramanand himself made similar requests, but Baba postponed, saying that Allah was his doctor, and did not allow his arm to be examined. Dr. Paramanand's medicines were not exposed to their air of Shirdi, as they remained intact, but he had the good fortune of getting a darshana of Baba. Bagoji was allowed to treat the hand daily. After some days, the arm healed, and all were happy. Still, we do not know whether any trace of pain was left or not. Every morning, Bagoji went through his program of loosening the paddies, massaging his arm, the ghee, and tightly bandaging it again. This went on till Sai Baba's Samadhi's death. Sai Baba, a perfect Siddha as he was, did not really want this treatment, but out of love to his devotee, he allowed the Upasana service of Bagoji to go on uninterrupted all along. When Baba started for Lendi, Bagoji held an umbrella over him and accompanied him. Every morning when Baba sat near the post close to the Duni, Bagoji was present and started his service. Bagoji was a sinner in his past birth. He was suffering from leprosy. His fingers had shrunk. His body was full of pus and smelling badly. Though outwardly he seemed so unfortunate, he was really very lucky and happy, for he was the premier servant of Baba and got the benefit of his company. Master Kapardi's plague case. I shall now relate another instance of Baba's wonderful Leela. Mrs. Kapardi, the wife of Mr. Dadasaheb Kapardi of Amaroti, was staying at Shirdi with her young son for some days. One day the son got high fever, which further developed into bubonic plague. The mother was frightened and felt most uneasy. She thought of leaving the place for Amaroti and went near Baba in the evening. When he was coming near the Wada, now Samadhi Mandir, in his evening rounds for asking his permission, she informed him in a trembling tone that her dear young son was down with plague. Baba spoke kindly and softly to her, saying that the sky is beset with clouds, but they will melt and pass off, and everything will be smooth and clear. So saying, he lifted up his kafani up to the waist and showed to all present four fully developed buboes as big as eggs, and added, "See how I have to suffer for my devotees. Their difficulties are mine." Seeing this unique, extraordinary deed, Leela, the people were convinced as to how the saints suffer pains for their devotees. The mind of the saints is softer than wax. It is soft in and out as butter. They love their devotees without any idea of gain and regard them as their true relatives. Going to Pandharpur and staying there. I shall now close this chapter after relating a story illustrating how Sai Baba loved his devotees and anticipated their wishes and movements. Mr. Nana Sahib Chandorkar, who was a great devotee of Baba, was Mamlatadar of Nandurbar and Kandesh. He got an order to transfer to Pandharpur. His devotion to Sai Baba bore fruit, as he got an order to go and stay at Pandharpur, which is regarded as Vaikunta, heaven on earth. Nana Sahib had to take immediate charge, so he left immediately for the place without even writing or informing anybody at Shirdi. He wanted to give a surprise visit to Shirdi, his Pandharpur set and salute his Vitoba Baba, and then proceed. Nobody dreamt of Nana Sahib's departure for Shirdi, but Sai Baba knew all about this, as his eyes were everywhere, omniscient. As soon as Nana Sahib approached Neemgaon, a few miles from Shirdi, there was a stir in the masjid at Shirdi. Baba was sitting and talking with Malashpati, Apa Shinde, and Kashiram, when he at once said, "Let us all four do some bhajan. The doors of Pandari are open. Let us merrily sing." Then they began to sing in chorus, to the burden of the song being, "I have to go to Pandharpur and I have to stay on there, for it is the house of my Lord." Baba sang, and the devotees followed him in a short time. Nana Sahib came there with his family, prostrated before Baba, and requested him to accompany them to Pandharpur and stay with them there. The solicitation was not necessary, as the devotee told Nana Sahib that Baba was already in the mood of going to Pandharpur and staying there. Hearing this, Nana Sahib was moved and fell at Baba's feet. Then, getting Baba's permission, Udi, sacred ashes, and blessings, Nana Sahib left for Pandharpur. There's no end to Baba's stories, but let me now make a halt here, reserving for the next chapter other topics, such as importance of human life, Baba's living on alms, Baya Jabai's service, and other stories. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all. Kushal Chand of Rahata. Baba loved Ganapat Koti Patel of Shirdi. He equally loved also Chandra Bahan Sheth, Marwadi of Rahata. After the demise of this Sheth, Baba loved his nephew, Kushal Chand, equally or even perhaps more, and watched his welfare day and night. Sometimes in a bullock cart, at other times in a tanga, with intimate friends. Baba went to Rahata. People of that village came out with band and music and received Baba at the ves or gate of the village and prostrated before him. Then he was taken into the village with great accolade and ceremony. Kushal Chand took Baba to his house, seated him on a comfortable seat, and gave him a good lunch. Then they talked freely and merrily for some time, after which Baba returned to Shirdi, giving delight and blessings to all. Shirdi is midway between and equidistant from Rahata on one side, south, and Neemgaon on the other, north. Baba never went beyond these places during his lifetime. He knew exactly the timing of arrivals and departures of all trains. Devotees who acted according to Baba's instructions, i.e., their departure, given at the time of taking his leave, fared well, while those who disregarded them suffered many a mishap and accident. More about this and other matters will be told in the next chapter. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all. The importance of human birth, Sai Baba begging food, Baya Jabai's service, Sai Baba's dormitory, his affection for Kushala Chand. As hinted in the last chapter, Himant Pant now explains at length in his preliminary remarks on the importance of human birth and then proceeds to relate how Sai Baba begged his food, how Baya Jabai served him, how he slept in the masjid with Tatya Koti Patel and Malashpati, and how he loved Kushal Achand of Rahata. Importance of human birth. In this wonderful universe, God has created billions, 84 lakh according to Hindu Shastra's calculation of creatures or beings, including gods, demigods, insects, beasts, and men, inhabiting heaven, hell, earth, ocean, sky, and other intermediate regions. Of these, those creatures or souls whose merits preponderate go to heaven and live there till they enjoy the fruits of their actions. And when this is done, they are cast down, while those souls whose sins or demerits preponderate go down to hell and suffer the consequences of their misdeeds for so long a time as they deserve. When their merits and demerits balance each other, they are born on earth as human beings and are given a chance to work out their salvation. Ultimately, when their merits and demerits both drop down or got rid of completely, they get their deliverance and become free. To put the matter in a nutshell, souls get their births or transmigrations according to their deeds and intelligence, development of their minds. Special value of the human body. As we all know, 4 things are common to all creatures: food, sleep, fear, and sexual union. In the case of man, he is endowed with a special faculty, knowledge. With the help of which he can attain God vision, which is impossible in any other birth. It is for this reason that gods envy man's fortune, and aspire to be born as men on earth, so as to get their final deliverance. Some say that there is nothing worse than the human body, which is full of filth, mucus, film, and dirt, and which is subject to decay, disease, and death. This is no doubt true to a certain extent, but in spite of these drawbacks and defects, the special value of the human body is that man has got the capacity to acquire knowledge. It is only due to the human knowledge that one can think of the perishable and the transitory nature of the body itself and of the world, and get a disgust for the sense enjoyments, and can discriminate between the unreal and the real, and thus attain God vision. So if we reject or neglect the body because it is filthy, we lose the chance of God vision. And if we fondle it and run after sense enjoyments because it is precious, we go to hell. The proper course, therefore, for us to pursue is the following: that the body should neither be neglected nor fondled, but should be properly cared for. Just as a traveler on a horseback takes care of his pony on the way till he reaches his destination and returns home. Thus, the body should ever be used or engaged to attain God vision or self-realization, which is the supreme end of life. It is said that though God created various sorts of creatures, he was not satisfied, for none of them was able to know and appreciate his work. So he had to create a special being, man, and endow him with a special faculty, knowledge. And when he saw that man was able to appreciate his Leela, marvelous work and intelligence, he was highly pleased and satisfied. Bhagavad 11-9-28. So really, it is good luck to get a human body, better luck to get birth in a Brahmin family, and best one to get an opportunity of having recourse to Sai Baba's feet and surrendering to him. Man's endeavor. Realizing how precious the human life is, and knowing that death is certain and may snatch us at any time, we should be ever alert to achieve the object of our life. We should not make the least delay, but make every possible haste to gain our object. Just as a widower is most anxious to get himself married to a new bride, or just as a king leaves no stone unturned to seek his lost son, so with all earnestness and speed, we should strive to attain our end, i.e., self-realization. Casting aside sloth and laziness, warding off drowsiness, we should day and night meditate on the self. If we fail to do this, we reduce ourselves to the level of beasts. How to proceed? The most effective and speedy way to gain our object is to approach a worthy saint or sage, Sadguru, who has himself attained God vision. What cannot be achieved by hearing religious lectures and studying of religious works is easily obtained in the company of such worthy souls, just as the sun alone gives light, which all the stars put together cannot do. So the Sadguru alone imparts spiritual wisdom, which all the sacred books and sermons cannot infuse. His movements and simple talks give us silent advice. The virtue of forgiveness and calmness, disinterestedness, charity, benevolence, control of mind and body, egolessness, etc., are observed by the disciples as they are being practiced in such pure and holy company. This enlightens their mind and lifts them up spiritually. Sai Baba was such a sage or Sadguru, though he acted as a fakir mendicant. He was always engrossed in the self. He always loved all beings in whom he saw God or divinity by pleasures. He was not elated. He was not depressed by misfortunes. A king and a pauper were the same to him. He whose glance would turn a beggar into a king used to beg his food from door to door in Shirdi, and let us now see how he did it. Baba begging food. Blessed are the people of Shirdi, in front of whose houses Baba stood as a beggar and called out, "O Lassi, give me a piece of bread," and spread out his hand to receive the same. In one hand he carried a tumral, tin point, and in the other a zoli, or a chau badri, a rectangular piece of cloth. He daily visited certain houses and went from door to door. Liquid or semi-liquid things such as soup, vegetables, milk, or buttermilk were received in the tin pot, while cooked rice, bread, and such solid things were taken in the zoli. Baba's tongue knew no taste, as he had acquired control over it, so how could he care for the taste of the different things he collected together? Whatever things he got in his zoli and in the tin pot were mixed together and partaken by Baba to his heart's content. Whether particular things were tasty or otherwise was never noticed by Baba, as if his tongue was devoid of the sense of taste altogether. Baba begged till noon, but his begging was very irregular. Some days he went a few rounds, on the other days up to 12 noon. The food thus collected was thrown in a kundi, an earthen pot. Dogs, cats, and crows freely ate from it, and Baba never drove them away. The woman who swept the floor of the masjid took some 10 or 12 pieces of bread to her house, and nobody prevented her from doing so. How could he, who even in dreams never warded off cats and dogs by harsh words and signs, refuse food to poor and helpless people? Blessed indeed is the life of such a noble person. People in Shirdi took him in the beginning for a mad fakir. He was known in the village by his name. How could one who lived on alms by begging a few crumbs of bread be revered and respected? But this fakir was very liberal of heart and hand, disinterested and charitable. Tough, he looked fickle and restless from outside. He was firm and steady inside. His way was inscrutable. Still, even in that small village, there were a few kind and blessed people who recognized and regarded him as a great soul. One such instance is given below. Baya Jabai's brilliant service. Tatya Koti's mother, Baya Jabai, used to go to the woods every noon with a basket on her head containing bread and vegetables. She roamed in the jungle's coos, about 3 miles, after costs, trampling over bushes and shrubs in searching of the mad fakir, and after hunting him out, fell at his feet. The fakir sat calm and motionless in meditation, while she placed a leaf before him, spread the eatables, bread, vegetables, etc., thereon, and fed him forcibly. Wonderful was her faith and service. Every day she roamed at noon in the jungles and forced Baba to partake of lunch. Her service, upasana or penance, by whatever name we call it, was never forgotten by Baba till his Mahasamadhi. Remembering fully what service she rendered, Baba benefited her son magnificently. Both the son and the mother had great faith in the fakir, who was their god. Baba often said to them that fakir, medicacy, was the real lordship, as it was everlasting, and the so-called lordship riches was transient. After some years, Baba left off going into the woods, began to live in the village, and take his food in the masjid. From that time, Baya Jabai's troubles of roaming in the jungles ended. Dormitory of Trio. Even blessed are the saints in whose heart Lord Vasudeo dwells. Unfortunate indeed are the devotees who get the benefit of the company of such saints. Two such fortunate fellows, Tatya Koti Patel and Bhagat Malashpati, equally shared the company of Sai Baba. Baba also loved them both equally. These three persons slept in the masjid with their heads towards the east, west, and north, and with their feet touching one another at the center. Stretching their beds, they lay on them, chit-chatting and gossiping about many things till late at midnight. If any one of them showed any signs of sleep, others would wake him up. For instance, if Tatya began to snore, Baba at once got up and shook him from side to side and pressed his head. If it was Malaspati, he hugged him close, stroked his legs, and kneaded his back. In this way, for full 14 years, Tatya, leaving his parents at home, slept in the masjid on account of his love for Baba. How happy and never to be forgotten were those days. How to measure that love and how to value the grace of Baba. After the passing away of his father, Tatya took charge of the household affairs and began to sleep at home. Kushale Hand of Rahata. Baba loved Ganapat Koti Patel of Shirdi. He equally loved Chandra Banshet Marwadi of Rahata. After the demise of the Shet, Baba loved his nephew, Kushal Chand, equally or even perhaps more, and watched his welfare day and night, sometimes in a bullock court, at other times in a tanga with intimate friends. Baba went to Rahata. People of that village came out with band and music and received Baba at the ves or gate of the village and prostrated before him. Then he was taken into the village with great pomp and ceremony. Kushala Chand took Baba to his house, seated him on a comfortable seat and gave him a good lunch. Then they talked freely and merrily for some time, after which Baba returned to Shirdi, giving delight and blessing to all. Shirdi is midway between an equidistance from Rahata on one side south and Neemgaon on the other north. Baba never went beyond these places during his lifetime. He never saw any railway train nor traveled by it. Still, he knew exactly the timing of arrival and departure of all trains. Devotees who acted according to Baba's instructions regarding their departure, which were given by him at the time of taking his leave, fared well, while those who disregarded them suffered many a mishap and accident. More about this and other matters will be told in the next chapter.
Thank you, Dr. Biresh. We'll have the next chapter reading by Brother Shri.
Are you able to hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Biresh.
Saira.
Chapter 9. Effect of compliance and non-compliance with Baba's orders at the time of taking leave. A few instances, medicinary and its necessity devotees. Tharkhand families experience. Baba fed soundly. At the end of last chapter, it was barely stated that the bhaktas who obeyed Baba's orders at the time of taking leave fared well, and those who disobeyed them suffered many a mishap. This statement will be amplified and illustrated with a few striking instances and by other matters dealt with in this chapter. Characteristics of Shirdi pilgrimage. One special peculiarities like of Shirdi pilgrimage was this, that none could leave Shirdi without Baba's permission. And if he did, he invited untold sufferings. But if anyone was asked to quit Shirdi, he would stay there no longer. Baba gave certain suggestions or hints when bhaktas went to bid goodbye and take leave. These suggestions had to be followed. If they were not followed or were departed from, accidents were sure to befall them. Who acted contrary to Baba's directions? We give below a few instances. Tatya Kote Patil. Tatya Kote was once going in a tanga to Kopargaon Bazaar. He came in a haste to the masjid, saluted Baba, and said that he would go to Kopargaon Bazaar. Baba said, "Don't make haste. Stop a little. Let go the bazaar. Don't go out of the village." On seeing his anxiety to go, Baba asked him to take a Shama, Madhavrao Deshpande, at least with him. Not minding this direction, Tatya Kote immediately drove his tanga. Of the two horses, one, which cost 300 rupees, was very active and restless. After passing Safal well, it began to run rashly, got a sprain in its waist, and fell down. Tatya was not much hurt, but was reminded of Mother Sai's direction. On another occasion, while proceeding to Kolhar village, he disregarded Baba's direction and drove in a tanga, which met with an similar accident. European gentleman. One European gentleman of Bombay once came to Shirdi with an introductory note from Nana Sahib Chandorkar and with some object in view. He was comfortably accommodated in a tent. He wanted to kneel before Baba and kiss his hand. Therefore, he tried thrice to step into the masjid, but Baba prevented him from doing so. He asked to sit in the open courtyard below and take Baba's darshan from there. Not pleased with this reception he wanted to leave Shirdi at once and came to bid goodbye. Baba asked him to go the next day and not to hurry. People also requested him to abide by Baba's direction. Not listening to all this, he left Shirdi in a tanga. The horses ran at first all right, but when Sawful Well was passed, a bicycle came in front, seeing which horses were frightened and ran fast. The tanga was turned topsy-turvy, and gentleman fell down and was dragged some distance. He was immediately released, but had to go and lie in Copperogan Hospital for the treatment of the injuries. Because of such experience, all people learned the lesson that those who disobeyed Baba's instruction met with accidents in one way or the other, and those who obeyed them were safe and happy. The necessity of mendicancy. Now to return to the question of mendicancy. A question may arise in the minds of some that if Baba was such great personage, God in fact, why should he have recourse to begging bowl all his lifetime? This question may be considered and replied from two standpoints. One, who are the fit persons who have right to live by the begging bowl? Our Shastras say that those persons who getting rid of or becoming free from the three main desires, wise, one for progeny, for wealth, two is for wealth, three for the fame, accept sannyas, are the fit persons to live by begging alms. They cannot make cooking arrangements and dine at home. The duty of feeding them rests on the shoulders of the householders. Sai Baba was neither a householder nor vanaprastha. He was a celibate sannyasi. that is, sannyasi from boyhood. His firm conviction was that the universe was his home. He was the Lord Vasudeo and the supporter of the universe and imperishable Brahman. So he had the full right to have recourse to the begging bowl. Two, now from the standpoint of Pancha, prune five sins and their atonement. We all know that in order to prepare foodstuffs and meals, the householders have to go through five actions or processes. Wise. One, Thandani pounding. Two, Peshani grinding. Three, Udakambu washing pots. Four, Marjani sweeping and cleaning. Five, Chulli lighting the hearths. These processes involve destruction of a lot of small insects and creatures, and thus the householders incur a lot of sin. In order to atone for this sin, our Shastras prescribe five kinds of sacrifices. Wise, Brahma Yajna, two, Vedadhyan, offering to Brahman or study of Vedas. Three, Pitra Yajna, offering the offerings to the ancestors. Four is Deva Yajna, offerings to the gods. Five, Bhuta Yajna, offerings to the beings. Six, Manushya Atidhi Yajna, offerings to men or uninvited guests. In these sacrifices, enjoined by the Shastras, are duly performed, the purification of their minds is effected, and this helps them to get knowledge and self realization. Devotees' experiences. Now, to return to the other more interesting subject. Lord Krishna has said in the Bhagavad Gita, Whosoever devoutly offers to me a leaf, a flower, or a fruit or water, of that pure hearted man, I accept that pious offering. In the case of Sai Baba, if a devotee really longed to offer anything to Sai Baba, and if he afterwards forgot to offer the same, Baba reminded him or his friend about the offering and made him present it to him, and then accepted it and blessed the devotee. A few instances are given below. Tarkat family, father and son. Mr. Ramchandra Atmaran, alias Baba Saheb Tarkar, formerly a Prarthana Samajist, was a staunch devotee of Sai Baba. His wife and son loved Baba equally, or perhaps more. It was once proposed that Master Tarkan should go with his mother to Shirdi and spend his May vacation there. But the son was unwilling to go, and he thought that in case he left his home at Bandra, the worship of Sai Baba in the house would not be properly attended to, as his father, being a Prardhana Samajist, would not care to worship Sai Baba's enlarged portrait. However, on his father's giving an assurance of oath that he would perform the worship exactly as the son was doing, the mother and the son left for Shirdi on one Friday night. Next day, the Saturday, Mr. Tharkan got up early, took his bath, and before proceeding with this puja, prostrated himself before the shrine and said, Baba, I am going to perform the puja exactly as my son has been doing, but please let it not be a formal drill. After he performed the puja, he offered a few pieces of lump sugar as Naivedya offering, which were distributed at the time of the lunch. That evening and on Sunday, everything went on well. The following Monday was a working day, and it also passed well. Mr. Tarkan, who had never performed puja like this in all his life, felt great confidence within himself that everything was passing on quite satisfactorily according to the promise given to his son. On Tuesday, he performed the morning puja as usual and left for his work. Coming home at noon, he found that there was no prasad, sugar, to partake of. When the meal was served, he asked the servant, cook, Who told him that there was no offering made that morning? Who told him that there was no offering made that morning and that he had completely forgotten then to perform that part of the puja, offering Naivedya? After hearing that, he left his seat and prostrated himself before the shrine, expressed his regret, at the same time chiding Baba for the want of guidance in making the whole affair a matter of mere drill. Then he wrote a letter to his son stating the facts and requested him to lay it before Baba's feet and ask his pardon for his neglect. This happened in Bandra at Tuesday noon. At about the same time, when the noon Aarti was just about to commence in Shirdi, Baba said to Mr. Tarkan, Mother, I have been, Mrs. Tarkan, Mother, I have been to your house in Bandra with a view to having something to eat. I found the door locked. I somehow got an entrance inside and found to my regret that Bao, Mr. Tarkan, had left nothing for me to eat. So I have returned from there without eating anything. The lady could not understand anything, but the son who was close by understood that there was something wrong with the puja in the Bandra, and he therefore requested Baba to permit him to go home. Baba refused the permission, but allowed him to perform puja there. Then the son wrote a letter to his father stating all that took place at Shirdi and implored his father not to neglect the puja at home. Both these letters crossed each other and were delivered to the respective parties the next day. Is this not astonishing? Mrs. Sarkand. Let us now take up the case of Mrs. Sarkand herself. She offered three things, viz. 1. Bharit, roasted brinjal eggplant mixed curds and spice. 2. Kacharya, circular pieces of brinjal fried in ghee. 3 is peda, sweet meatball. Let us see how Baba accepted them. Once Mr. Raghuvir Bhaskar, Purandare of Bandra, a great devotee of Baba, started for Shirdi with his family. Mrs. Tharkand went to Mrs. Purandare and gave her 2 brinjals and requested her to prepare bharit of one brinjal and kacharya of the other. When she went to Shirdi and served Baba with them. After reaching Shirdi, Mrs. Purandare went with her dish of bharit to the masjid when Baba was just about to start his meals. Baba found the bharit very tasty, so he distributed it to all and said that he wanted kacharyas now. A word was sent to Radha Krishna Mai that Baba wanted kacharyas now. She was in a fix as that was no season of brinjals. How to get brinjals was the question. When an inquiry was made as to who brought the bharit, it was found that Mrs. Purandare was also entrusted with the duty of serving kacharyas. Everybody then came to know the significance of Baba's inquiry regarding kacharyas and was wonderstruck at Baba's all-pervasive knowledge. In December 1915 AD, one Govind Balram Mankar wanted to go to Shirdi to perform the obsequies of his father. Before he left, he became to see Mr. Tarkan. Then Mrs. Tarkan wanted to send something with him to Baba. She searched the whole house but found nothing except a peda, which had already been offered as Naivedya. Miss Mankar was in the morning. Still, out of great devotion to Baba, she sent the peda with him. However, hoping that Baba would accept and eat it. Govind went to Shirdi and saw Baba but forgot to take the peda with him. Baba simply waited. When again he went to Baba in the afternoon, he went empty handed without the peda. Baba could wait no longer and therefore asked him to straight, what did you bring for me? Nothing, was the reply. Baba asked him again. The same reply came forth again. The Baba asked him, leading the question, did not Mother, Mrs. Sarkand, give something sweetmeat to you for me at the time of your starting? The boy then remembered the whole thing. He felt abashed, asked Baba's pardon, and ran into his lodging, brought the peda, and gave it to Baba. As soon as Baba got it in his hand, he put it in his mouth and gulped it down. Thus, the devotion of Mrs. Sarkand was recognized and accepted. As men believe in me, so I do accept them. Gita was proved in this case. Baba fed sumptuously how? Once Mrs. Sarkand was staying in a certain house in Shirdi. At noon, meals were ready and dishes were being served. When a hungry dog turned up there and began to cry, Mrs. Sarkand got up at once and then threw a piece of bread, which the dog gulped with great relish. In the afternoon, when she went to masjid and sat at some distance, Sai Baba said to her, Mother, you have fed me sumptuously up to my throat. My afflicted pranas, life forces, have been satisfied. Always act like this, and this will stand you in good stead. Good stead. Sitting in this masjid, I shall never speak untruth. Take pity on me like this. First, give bread to the hungry, and then eat yourself. Note this well. She could not at first understand the meaning of what Baba said. So she replied, Baba, how could I feed you? I am myself dependent on others and take my food from them on payment. Then Baba replied, eating that lovely bread, I am heartily contented and I am still belching. The dog which you saw before meals and to which you gave the piece of the bread is one with me. So also the creatures, cats, pigs, flies, cows, etc., are one with me. I am roaming in their forms. He who sees me in all these creatures is my beloved. So abandon the sense of duality and distinction and serve me as you did today. Drinking these nectar like words, she was moved. Her eyes were filled with tears. Her throat was choked, and her joy knew no bounds. Moral: see God in all beings is the moral of this chapter. The Upanishads, the Gita, and Bhagavat all exhort, all exhort us to perceive God or divinity in all the creatures. By the instance given at the end of this chapter, and others too numerous to mention, Sai Baba has practically demonstrated to us how to put the Upanishadic teachings into practice. In this way, Sai Baba stands as the best exponent or teacher of Upanishadic doctrines. Woe to Sri Sai, peace to be all. Chapter 10. Sai Baba's mode of life, his sleeping, board, his stay in Shirdi, his teachings, his humility, the easiest path. Remember him, Sai Baba, always with love, for he was engrossed in doing good to all and always abided to his self. To remembering him only is to solve the riddle of life and death. This is the best and easiest way of sadhanas, as it involves no expenditure. A little exertion here brings great rewards. So, as long as our senses are sound, we should minute by minute practice this sadhana. All other gods are illusionary. Guru is the only God. If we believe in Sadguru's holy feet, he can change our fortune for the better. If we serve him nicely, we get rid of our samsara. We need not study any philosophy like Nyaya and the Mimamsa. If we make him our helmsman, he can easily cross over the sea of all our pains and sorrows. As we trust the helpman in crossing rivers, seas, so we have to trust our Sadguru in getting over the ocean of worldly existence. The Sadguru looks to the intense feeling and devotion of his devotees, endows them with the knowledge and eternal bliss. In the past chapter, Baba's mendicancy and devotees' experiences and other subjects are dealt with. Let the readers now hear where and how Baba lived, how he slept, and how he taught, etc. Baba's wonderful bedstead. Let us first see where and how Baba slept. Mr. Nana Sahib Dhengale brought for Sai Baba a wooden plank, amount 4 cubits in length and only a span in breadth for sleeping upon. Instead of keeping the plank on the floor and then sleeping on it, Baba tied it like a swing to the rafters of the masjid with old shreds or rags and commenced to sleep upon it. The rags were so thin and worn out that it was the problem how they could bear or support even a way of a plank itself, let alone the weight of the Baba. But somehow or others, it was Baba's sheer lila that the worn out rags did sustain the plank with the weight of Baba on it. On the four corners of this plank, Baba lighted panatis, earthen lamps, one at each corner, and kept them burning the whole night. It was a sight for the gods to see Baba sitting or sleeping on this plank. It was a wonder to all how Baba got up and down the plank. Out of curiosity, many careful observers kept watching the process of mounting and dismounting, but none succeeded. As crowds began to swell, so to detect this wonderful feat, Baba one day broke the plank into pieces and threw it away. Baba had all the eight siddhis, powers at his command. He never practiced nor craved for them. They came to him naturally as a result of his perfection. Sugan manifestation of Brahman. Sagun manifestation of Brahman. Though Sai Baba looked like a man, 3 cubits and a half in length, still he dwelt in the hearts of all. Inwardly, he was unattached and indifferent, but outwardly, he longed for public welfare. Inwardly most disinterested, he looked outwardly full of desires for the sake of his devotees. Inwardly an abode of peace, he looked outward restless. Inwardly he had the state of Brahman. Outward he acted like a devil. Inwardly he had the state of Brahman. Outwardly he acted like a devil. Inwardly he loved Advaita, union or monism. Outwardly, he got entangled with the world. Sometimes he looked on all with affection, and at times he threw stones at them. Sometimes he scolded them, while at times he embraced them and was calm, composed, tolerant, and well balanced. He always abided and was engrossed in the self and was well disposed towards his bhaktas. He always sat on one asan and never traveled. His band was a small stick, which he always carried in his hand. He was calm, being thought free. He never cared for wealth and fame and lived on begging. Such a life he led. He always uttered Allah Malik, God the real owner. Entire and unbroken was his love for the bhaktas. He was the main or storehouse for self knowledge and full of divine bliss. Such was the divine form of Sai Baba, boundless, endless, and undifferentiated. One principle which envelops the whole universe, from the stone pillar to Brahma, incarnated in Sai Baba. The really meritorious and fortunate people got this treasure trove in their hands, while those people who, not knowing the real worth of Sai Baba, took or take him to be a man or mere a human being were or are indeed miserable. His stay in Shirdi and probable birth date. None knew or knows the parents and the exact birth date of Sai Baba, but it can be approximately determined by his stay in Shirdi. Baba first came to Shirdi when he was a young lad of 16 and stayed there for 3 years. Then all of a sudden he disappeared for some time. After some time, he reappeared in the Nizam state near Aurangabad and again came to Shirdi with the marriage party of Chand Patil when he was 20 years old. Since then, he stayed in Shirdi continuously for a period of 6 years, after which Baba took his Mahasamadhi in the year of 1918. From this, we can say that the year of Baba's birth is approximately 1838 AD. Baba's mission and advice. Saint Ramdas, who lived between 1608 to 1681, flourished in the 17th century and fulfilled to a great extent his mission of protecting cows and Brahmins against the Yavanas, Mohammedans. But within the 2 centuries after him, the split between the two communities, Hindus and Mohammedans, widened again, and Sai Baba came to bridge the gulf. His constant advice to all was to this effect. Rama, the god of Hindus, and Rahim, the god of Mohammedans, were one and the same. There was not a slightest difference between them. Then why should their devotees and quarrel among themselves? You ignorant folk, children, join hands and bring both communities together. Act sanely, and thus you will gain your object of national unity. It is not good to dispute and argue, so don't argue. Don't emulate others. Always consider your interest and welfare. The Lord will protect you. Yoga, sacrifice, penance, and knowledge are the means to attain God. If you do not succeed in this by any means, vain is your birth. If anyone does any evil unto you, do not retaliate. If you can do anything, do some good unto others. This, in short, was the Sai Baba's advice to all. And this will stand in good stead both in material and spiritual matters.
Thank you, Brother Shu. As we are nearing 9:30, we will have our closing prayers and continue. Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadeva Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Shri Sai Ram. Thank you, Brother Pirosh, and thank you, Brother Sridhar. Thank you all for joining us today. See you all tomorrow.